Get me out of the house, please. 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 Okay, here I see an opportunity for a no slack, no line animal movement thing. Okay, maybe I'll get that tomorrow. Or, nah, not tomorrow. Maybe the day after. Right? Now I can make pretty eyes at you, like, please love me. You know? I meet so many people right now, like you just go on the internet and you see people posting stuff about spirituality and they're like, you know, follow me, I'm the one who knows everything. And you're like, yeah, I don't think so, man. Because why do you think I think so? First of all, most of your stuff is too exclusive. What does that mean? Well, it means that you just want to make money with it. I mean, it's cool in that sense, yeah, you know. On the long run, it'd be nice. It would be nice. But it's often a clear sign that somebody actually has nothing to give. Because he just wants to lead. You know, he just scratched the surface of his own bullshit, and then he ran back into the light and said, you know what, I'm just gonna talk about the physical stuff of spirituality because the rest is just too much for me. And that's then it. You know, that's as far as he allowed himself to go. And there's a lot of people out there who I see, and you see right through to them, you know, who spend time in the darkness and then they kind of manage to escape it. And a lot of them, they manage to escape it through smoking, right? They kind of manage to keep the darkness at bay. Wow, this is so nice. I mean, cities are just complete mindfuck. And now I'm here again. I see this, I think, can you get up there? I mean, sure can try. It's now a new way of saying things, sure can try. Wow, this looks so super weird. Because I've just spent a couple of days just on the inside, constantly trying to find time to leave the house. But I just never did. Until now. Today was, I think, in 1 week. Wow, I mean, look at this. Is this not something to spend time in? I mean, so many people, and that's what I mean. They just say now I'm spiritual, but actually nothing's changed. They're just doing the same stuff they did before. Now they just dress differently. But, you know, they're just fucking around just like they did before. They just look a bit differently. And that's basically most people. Nobody really connects on the inside with themselves and then finds their way of doing yoga. Who does that? Well, almost nobody. Right? Nobody really does that. And that's what I'm really criticizing. Too many certificates are being bought, right? Too much crap is being sold. Too much nonsense is being spoken. Because once the camera's off, you know, I can do whatever I want, right? But just for the interview, you know, I'll have to look pretty. And, you know, just for 1 hour, I have to maintain this. And then the camera's off. And afterwards, you're like, I fucking hate you all. Just give me money. You know? This is how people are these days, right? No control. I mean, they could be breathing. They could be hiking. They could be making art. You know? If during times like this, you're not making art like that, handing out stuff all the time, then you got nothing going for yourself. If you're not highly creative, managing your own company, I don't believe anything you're doing. If the extent of your creative abilities ends at talking about nonsense that you read in books, you know, I want to see that you actually got something and that you're living it. But most people, they just read something and they just talk about it. And they just sit around talking about it. You know, people like me, they don't stay around for talkers. They don't stay around for talkers. They just leave. So yeah, sure, you want to interview me. Why? Interview yourself. I mean, okay, I get it. Some people are really good at just getting other people to talk. Nobody has to get me to talk. I just do that by myself. So, get me out of the house, please. Yes. And then put me in nature. Because if I'm with people, I'll just speak truth. And if I'm in the park and there's people gossiping, I'll go there and I'll confront them with it. Right? And I cannot do this all the time because then everyone's traumatized and then they just blame it on me instead of their own, you know, parenting or society. You see, there are so many things that are just wrong. I mean, I had to literally intimidate so many people just to get off my back. So I can spend time doing what I feel like, and I can devote, you know, the rest of my time also to, you know, spending time with my parents. And if there ever should be the woman where I thought, you know, she has some kind of courage, well, she'll get some time as well, but at the moment, it's just dead silence because apparently I'm too much for everyone. Because I'm too connected. There's too much spirit, you know. Why do you think we developed all these things like psychedelics? Because we wanted to, you know, extract spirit from people so they're easier to control. Yeah. No kidding. Oh, that's what it was for. Yeah, of course that's what it was for, man. You know TV? Ever watched The Dark Crystal? Extracting life force from people? That's spirit, right? And you pay money for that. You pay money for it every second of every day. You know, electricity bills, that's all spirit. All paid by spirit, right? Paid and provided for, and you're channeling. You're channeling. You're keeping this nonsense alive. And you think it's a good idea because you're so weak that you cannot even imagine anymore how life could be a bit different, a bit more natural. How you could be in the forest and actually crave it when you're not here. I mean, I've worked hard, so I would be able to get out of the house again and find myself in nature. Why? I don't know, man. It's called channeling. Right? And people just come here, they don't know what to do in nature anymore. Right? They just rip out stuff. They just destroy things. And you just wonder, you know, everybody just wants to have fun. Yeah, that's not gonna... Okay, but I have to say to that, spruce trees are flat rooters, which is why grounding and digging into the ground with your roots is one of the most important things in yoga. So you can talk about, no, yeah, but what is yoga, Christopher? Please tell us, what is yoga? Well, good of you to come here, because I shall drag this out probably for at least, half an hour. First want to see if this is going to kill me, or if I'm actually going to survive. Okay, I don't think I'm gonna make it. I mean, what am I to a tree? Right? Just me, myself. Almost nothing. Okay, I'm not so sure this is a good idea. But up until here I feel fine, okay? Okay, if a woman could get me, like really pin me down, I wouldn't stand a chance. I'm just saying. It's too soft to reject it. Like a female presence in my life would be so welcome. But I know that there's very few that could get me at this stage. Basically none. Because I simply don't go where a woman could pin me down. So the only woman that could pin me down is the one that knows where I live, and that would have the courage to actually come there and say, hey, and I couldn't refuse her. If she'd be, if she'd have that kind of courage, I could never say no. So she has to be like a huntress. She has to be, in a sense, predator. And then in that position, I'd be more like prey, right? So you can actually play hide and seek with your true husband or true wife, which only exists once, of course. And I was just on the verge of either collapsing into another binge. I was watching some trailers. I was debating with myself whether I should go into the cinema again. But I decided to come here instead. But it is possible that I would go into the cinema again. Just to see, but at the same time I don't really want to, because I know how it screws up your mind. But if you know how to get back to yourself, then is it really that bad? Probably no. So, I like rejecting women that have taken too many men for granted. I actually like this. I like rejecting women that have taken too many men for granted. I'm serious about this. What a lot of people do not understand is that there is a language that says, you know, if you take another man into your apartment, then this is already cheating, basically. Right? And that's what a lot of people just don't get. What being true to your beloved or whatever actually means. It's meaning you do not meet for hikes with other women. You do not have dinner with other women. You do not do a lot of things with other women. You possibly don't even eat the food of other women. Unless it's like, you know, yeah, okay, family is a bit different. So get me out of the house, please. I mean, what's there to say? I just got myself out of the house, please. Because I'm just rendering a video. And I felt like that was my way through. I have created some ripples, scared some people, and here I am. I'm actually not dressed properly. I just wanted to go into nature, and I deliberately avoided going to the park again. Why? Because the park has nothing for me anymore. It's just empty nonsense. There's nothing in it. And I now have to simply stick with my devotion. Like saying, you know, I tried escaping the park too many times. But to me it's just empty space. It's just people talking nonsense. There's nobody in there for me. And I've tried, but every time I go there, right, I join people sitting around smoking. And every time I do that, they take something away from me that I could have used to create content. So if I create content now, then I can free myself. Because this is... Okay, here I'm still more likely to meet people. The further I get into this, the less likely I'll be to meet people. And so I have a specific goal in my life, and this is reconnecting with a woman that I met along the way. But I just don't know if she stayed true to me, if you know what I'm saying. I don't know that. You may feel like she's sending you vibes. You know, not that story again. Yeah, it's important. Because what is a hero going onto a journey for? Why do people read things like The Alchemist? This is... I have started looking for her in second grade, in kindergarten. I was pressing girls into the... Wow, have never been here. No? Into the wardrobe and started kissing them, and then I was told I wasn't allowed to do that. So I had to learn to behave. Yeah, and then in, you know, that story again, I know. Then in Africa I started to have just casual kind of sex. But none of these things lasted. And none were really... I mean, there are women that are more like cows. I mean, truly more like cows. And they will never be anything else. Right? And that's neither bad nor good, it's just the way it is. And then there's women who are literally more like predators. And they are usually way more selective with their partners. You know, cows, they just stand there like, "Moo," and then the guy comes and just like, right? And there's women who are more like bonobo chimpanzees who just start fights, and then any guy can come like, Sorry, but that's how it is. So get me out of the house, please. Yeah, it's either that or another collapse. Okay, now I found another way to where I want to be. So yeah, I feel this longing for a woman. But it's simply too hard. I mean, I cannot just resist. Oh wow, now I'm here. Wait, where am I? Out of my eyes, please. Wow, look at this, man. I've never been here. Wow. Well, what are they doing here? You know, we need to protect such areas. I don't know, I'm just gonna walk a bit. So yeah, get me out of the house, please. I mean, what more am I supposed to tell you? I don't know where you are. Well, if you're like stuck in the city center of some giant city, then I suggest you start making plans, right? I suggest you start honing your mind, improving your skills, so that you can work yourself out of this city environment. I mean, I just made stinging nettle pesto the other day. It was nice, I liked it. So, right, I can just say please to you, make an effort to get back into nature, because I cannot describe to you how clear this vision is. This feeling of walking through a field and feeling right at home. This is the gladiator scene from the beginning, but you're actually in it. And the only music or orchestra you need is the birds that are chirping and the wind that is blowing, right? And then you can actually touch it. But for that, you'd have to lose your fear of ticks. You'd have to lose your fear of nature itself. And the more truthful you become to this, the more truthful probably, your woman is your mirror. If you don't like your woman, well, I don't know, man. Do you just want to get rid of her? I mean, that's not nice. Because that's gonna bring a lot of hardship onto you. So a better way is to simply accept. This is the state you're in, and then you just see. Sometimes things also end by themselves. I don't know, I have a hard time accepting women as equally conscious as me. I just rarely meet anyone who's just conscious to a certain degree. I mean, that comes with a lot of acceptance. Okay. If I wanted to make pesto, I'd probably have to make it now, but I'm always afraid of the stinging nettles until I pick them, and then I'm happy. Maybe later I'll look for some others. This is too close to, now I actually know where I'm coming from when I walk this direction. So get me out of the house, please, is actually you asking for help, right? I mean, that's why you're watching this. Because from all the videos that I release, you picked this one because maybe it was the newest, or maybe it was the one that popped up when you searched for something. So the question is, okay, this is the only place I can recommend. I mean, not this specific place, but simply nature. And right before you're ready to leave the path, right, which I do, right, you also have to know in what kind of an environment you are. I mean, I suppose this is probably not Africa. Okay, here looks like a deer rested here in the night. You can see it because the grass is a bit like something lay on it. So deer have no you can even smell it. Right, so yeah, where are you living? Where do you live? I mean, this is an area, I'm not really fond of naming areas, but a lot of people are convinced that this is supposed to be Germany, which inspired me to make a song about it. Why is there a German? Yeah, because they eat too much yeast. So a lot of people, they would never go here because they wouldn't know what for, because they just want to hurry, right? Plus they'd be afraid of ticks. They'd be afraid of stepping onto things. They'd be afraid of all kinds of things. And I feel like, right, I'm walking in the Garden of Eden, because this is often, you know, the ground is much harder than what is actually natural. So all I can do is show you what I have been doing, trying to express like visions I have had. After I had spent a lot of time in nature. Right, all these visions, they came from my time spent in nature and then trying to express this love, this deep connection that I felt. I mean, I have been in these ayahuasca ceremony things, but I always felt like, because usually they were somewhere inside, I usually felt like I'd rather experience this outside. Well, what I'm experiencing right now is basically the same thing. I'm in a state of awareness. I feel somewhat clean, but I always have to get used to the environment again, which is, I have been looking at a screen, I have been looking at my phone, I have been inside, right? I was somewhat contained, and now I'm out here. Now I'm walking on this kind of a ground. What does that mean? Well, it means that in comparison, you could call this discomfort. But to me, it's actually the other way around. The real discomfort is actually, for me, being forced to sit on chairs, right? Being forced to eat, right, industrialized food. Being forced to be in these closed off environments, right, where everything's so sterile, everything's so cut off, everything's so penetrated by, you know, distorting frequencies, disturbances in the force. I mean, that's your Wi-Fi. You know, even if you don't have it, but your neighbor has it. Sure, you can ward it off to a certain degree just by changing the frequency that you are vibrating on, by cleansing your aura. But that'll take a lot of time. And so you have to invest that. So Get Me Out of the House, Please is teaching you a couple of things. That until you get to the point where you feel like, now I can leave the house without feeling like I'm running away and still come back. Because that's what I have been trying to do. Because the middle path, for me, is always also transitioning. Right? The river transitions from usually higher mountains, right, where it starts in a spring, then it transitions into a stream, then it transitions into a river, and then maybe even bigger rivers joining together, right, and then transitions into, well, what would it transition then into? Well, into the ocean. But it may even transition first like into a fjord, and then from the fjord, the river into you. So there's different variations. But there's always the journey and the transition. You know, it's not like river and then bam, ocean. No, it's more like the river is slowly transitioning into the ocean. And then there's, I think you call it an estuary. There's usually a bit of ocean water, which is then already usually salty, you know, mixing into the sweet river water. Right? There's always this line where it's like merging together. So you can now say, well, that's man merging back into nature. Sometimes that's a relationship. I mean, if you really want a relationship for the rest of your life, with family and all of that, then you have to take the time. And depending on who you are, how big you are, because there are different sized spirits, that's just how it is. You know, that's just how it is. There are different sized spirits. For whatever reason, that's just what I have observed. I mean, why else would you have people like Thomas Edison? Or, you know, I can only quote myself, who has made an incredible amount of art just by channeling it all. And then there's people who, you know, barely manage to do like, you know, then there's people who do more like the major, you know, I just do, in a sense, I do caricatures or memes. And for me, artwork takes about an hour, but I'm also quite fast. If I'm devoted, I'm quite fast, right? You know, I'll pack my things, I'm gone. You won't even know that I packed them. Suddenly I'm not there anymore. And that's just what I have been doing for some time. So I felt like it is important to just try to pinpoint out to you that just because you haven't managed yet to frequently go into nature, that you may have not taken all the steps to get to the point where you can do that. So for me to feel good about going into nature included hiking a lot as a preparation, which is, you know, I had to force myself to spend a lot of time in nature and make experiences to start feeling better about it. I had to do a lot of hardening. So in my apartment I sleep on the ground or on this really thin kapok mattress, which is maybe 3 centimeters thick. I walk in bare feet. I have done so for years. But although I have been walking in bare feet since 2012, it took me an incredible amount to find the motivation, the courage, the stamina to simply stop watching porn and then instead just go into nature. And I had to do a lot of cleansing so that I could actually feel nature. Like I can feel the wind blowing through me. And that is an incredible feeling, which, you know, this is part of cleansing your mind. And if you would simply, you know, let's say you're in a city and you have these, you know, let's say you have pedophile thoughts, you've been watching porn since you were 12, you have watched these gore horror movies, right? You always have these flashes of violence inside your mind. You know, your mind's just simply dirty. It's just dirty. And everything disgusts you. And you kind of hate everything. And everyone is just so vicious and toxic. And everyone is outright, you know, imbalanced. You know, from that moment where you feel like, let's say, maybe we need another Holocaust, right? You know, you think that's what humanity needs. Or maybe you think, you know, like, let's say somebody who is just about to go to the shops, buy a gun and, you know, run amok. If you take that guy just before he does it, whatever he thinks he should do, just to find some kind of relief for his hatred, you'd bring him to a place like this and just make sure that he gets through it all right. The cleansing would happen. You probably wouldn't have to do anything. You'd just have to bring him here and nature would cleanse his soul. And you could assist him, but a better way is you just do it yourself. You see, this is what I'm here to teach you. You are responsible for your life. And if you want to, right, if you want me to get you out of the house, then I just did it. I just told you, find the closest natural area and, right, I mean, I'm not necessarily parks, because parks are places for lost souls who never made it out of it, who could never let go of the city. And I have had more traumatic experiences in parks than I had, you know, here. I'm just saying, you need a lot of distance to other people to remember how you felt like before, you know, you started merging into other beings. Because we are all beings of mind, we are all beings of energy. And if you want to know what your energy feels like what's at the source, at the bottom of your pit, you have to start digging and you have to start upheaving it. So I often feel nauseous just from energy coming up. I often feel like stuck. I have went through an incredible amount of just pain, like pain that if you look at it, there was nothing there, but I was just feeling incredible pain. Like I had wounds, emotional wounds, oozing, like there was like holes in my spiritual body. You know, these things can all be healed in nature. And then you'll be more complete. And then you are what some people say enlightenment is. For that, all you have to do is spend a lot of time alone just focus on also your personal development, which is like you need to focus on yourself like a therapist would work with his patient. So you have to accept the fact that there's an observer and that you can see yourself going down the drain. And to avoid that from happening and ending up in some kind of lonely prison cell, you say to yourself, hey, you know, why not just try? You know, if nothing helps, just let nature do it, and nature will talk to you. Nature has spoken to me in many ways, right? There were words, like a heron said it to me. A heron flew up and the word came and it said, you know, like, trust. I have heard of other people that were walking through incredible perils, and there was always this word trust shooting into their minds. Like, trust is like, where's this coming from? Right? I'm not the only one who's experiencing these things, but I know what I'm doing it for. So yeah, maybe I'm some kind of like super mind engineer thing, right? You know, I cannot tell you what I am, but what I can tell you is that I love nature. So get me out of the house, please, is, but where to? And when? And how often? Well, like I said, you have to build up strength, because the way you are now, which is probably the state that you were left off after school, you know, somewhat broken, used, right? You've been feeding the industry for years and years and years, and you're simply lazy, you're weak, you feel sick, you feel nauseous, you're probably disgusted by yourself, plus you're disgusted by everyone else, and now you're trying to change that, right? You're trying to change that, and you're trying to simply change that, you know? So get me out of the house, please. All I can say to that is, well, do it. Just get out of the house. There are many people who do it. And they'll go into nature, they cleanse themselves, they let go of all that nonsense that people try to plant into them, like ideas and ideals, and you know, you have to start healing your eyes. I mean, focus on something like this. If you focus on something like this, well, that'll heal your eyes. But if you look at a screen, no matter how virtual reality tries to imitate the real world, you can never go and touch it. And you can never look really into it. It's always just a screen. It's just something that imitates something. But the real deal is here, right? I mean, if you look into this field, each straw is something you can focus on. And that's when you get your eyes back. The eyes of a predator. When you start seeing like an eagle, right? I do open eye meditation. I'm doing it right now. I walk here, I keep my eyes open, and I feel like this is the clearest vision you can imagine. This is for anyone who has dabbled with things like truffles or mushrooms. This is how it looked like. But I always had to take these substances, and it annoyed me because it's super unpredictable. And so what I realized was that I love leaving the track, man, because it slows you down, incredibly slows you down. So what I realized just for myself was that I felt like I needed to find a space where I could just, be by myself. and get overly worrying people off my back. So like I was saying, get me out of the house, please. Find the closest natural area and just start going there. Right? I mean, if I tell you now to take off your shoes, then you're self-responsible. Then, you know, I mean, I have stepped into stones. I have stepped into like sharp objects. I have stepped into many things, you know, and I have started to see very clearly. But, you know, if I walk here, I see what you see in that sense. Like, I see, for me, like, to me a tree is a spirit. To me, you know, each plant is a spirit. I'm a spirit. I mean, we're not the only things building things. I mean, each grass is building every year for millions of years. So, I mean, this is nice. I just saw somebody over there sitting in the grass. So just see it like this. Just like that. And this is not the experience I'm having, because I'm right in the middle of it. You know? I can actually reach out and touch them. I can smell this. Right? I can feel the wind calling me home or something. I can see it. I am in it. And this is simply what I chose. This is an active choice. So yeah, everybody always talks about freedom of choice, but nobody does anything with that. Everybody just does what everyone else does. And then you've always got choice, no matter the consequences. And that's like the story that Ramdas told, where there's this general and he comes to this monastery or something, like a temple somewhere in Tibet, and there's this enlightened guy or something, and then this general comes and says, "Do you know who I am?" He tries to, you know, scare him. You know, "I'm the guy who cuts open your belly." And the monk says, "Well, I'm the guy who smiles while you're doing it." Well, that's a tough choice. But if you feel like you have to hold your ground, then you have to hold your ground. And I think the message this is, you cannot give in to fear. But, right, you can start dancing with it. And that's what I have done. I have walked away when I felt like something was actually threatening my life. I have started to retreat sometimes. Sometimes I held my ground. But with nature I said I have to build this up. And if I'd want to have a woman, let's say, in my life that could be with me, I could never accept it unless I have done my cleansing. So if you want like Goldberry from The Lord of the Rings, you know, Tom Bombadil's, maybe she's his spouse or whatever. Yeah, my mind is clearly drawn to sex. This is clearly something I would fight for to have, like, with a true woman. But to me that is also nature, right? I fight for nature, and then I say, well, if nature would give me a woman, right, that can stand me, that can face me and my warrior's eyes, which pierce through your disguise, you know, then I would accept it. And that's why I clearly say this woman would have to be a warrior, would have to be a huntress, and she'd have to pin me down. You know, and that's then for the next chapter. But yeah, I have already chosen, so the choice is yours. Just be that Ragnar Lothbrok. Just be him yourself. You know, that's the kind of people we need in your area. You may be the only one in your area that has these kinds of visions, that wants to grow. So grow then. Not everyone can do this. For very random reasons. Whatever. In the end, it's your choice. And yeah, trust me, I'd like to slack off, but I always feel drawn forward. Like I have to go to places, I have to do things. And there's things I simply have to reject in a way, I think. And so I focus on my yoga, I focus on my planks, I focus on myself. And why? Because I have tried the other thing, like friendship, and it never ever works. In the end, I make plans and I'm always alone. So I'll just do that. I'll just be alone and wait for that woman. And then I'll see what can grow from that. But I feel like I first have to finish whatever task I have set myself. You know, I have to be stable about not masturbating. I have to be stable about semen retention. And then I have to resist the urge to blame others. Falsely accusated. Right? What does that mean? Well, I don't know, man. Falsely accusated. Right? So in a sense, I have given up hope. But I have changed so much that it's hard to remember what I started out as. I just know where I'm now and where I feel myself being drawn into. And maybe for you it's super easy to go into nature, but then why watch this video? So in the end, you just have to find something that inspires you, that sparks you to get out of the house, and then you have to get out of the house. And that's all. And that is all. And that is all.